There is a new champion in the middleweight division, and he looks dominant as ever. Khamzat Chimaev with one of the most dominant performances in the history of title fights in the UFC. So what does it mean for him? What does it mean for Dricus Du Plessis? Plus, what else did we see on what ended up being a pretty wild main card at UFC 319? Let's break it all down. UFC 319 is in the books, and it was one for the record books. We had a couple of knockouts that will go down in infamy based on their execution and hilarious timing. Plus, a couple interesting fights for some up-and-comers moving their way through the Ultimate Fighting Championship, and a couple disappointing losses as well. But we begin with one of the most dominant performances you will see in any fight ever, but certainly in a title fight, and certainly by the challenger, as Khamzat Chimaev is the new middleweight champ. We said in the breakdown on Friday that the most likely outcome from this fight was going to be Khamzat comes in, he gets a power bomb, and then whatever limb happens to bounce up into his grasp, he is going to take it and try to rip it off. And that is how this one is going to play out. I was kind of right. The thing I was worried about was the gas tank of Khamzat Chimaev, and how is he going to look from minutes 16 to 25, having never been in a 5-round main event before, or in a fight that has lasted more than 15 minutes. And the ones where he went 15 minutes looked a little concerning. What I didn't take into account is that powerbomb thing from how I thought he was going to win was just going to happen over and over and over again, and he was going to face about that much resistance from Dricus Du Plessis in this. This was dominance in every sense of the word. Absolute dominance, absolute control by Khamzat Chimaev. Like I said before, this is one of the most impressive performances I have seen from a challenger in a really long time. Daniel Cormier brought it up. It was basically 20 to 30 seconds into every round, shot, takedown, down. And it's, I mean, we can talk about the defense of Dricus Du Plessis here in a second, but it is a lightning quick shot, and it's relentless after it, right? Like, whether he's trying to turn the corner on you, whether you're slipping away with a leg and he's just sticking to you, it is just like a dog on a bone, right? That you just can't get this guy off. And then once he gets you down on the mat, complete control. I don't know if I've seen a fight where a dude gets 3 mounted crucifixes in one fight. That's a new one for me. Now, generally, if you're in that spot, that's all she wrote. But to be able to get that thrice is just insane. So the control everywhere was really, really impressive to me. I do think that you could make a touch of an argument like, hey, maybe get that guy out if you are in that much control. I don't know why it took until the 3rd crucifix to start raining elbows down on Dricus Du Plessis' dome. But once he started to really land those power shots, you kind of got a sense maybe this thing is over. That wasn't necessarily the case, but it was so dominant and just such control. I was blown away by what I saw by Khamzat Chimaev. And there was a lot of people who were booing in the audience. I wasn't able to watch it live, so I don't know what the reaction was like on social media. Those fights don't bother me as much. Like, there are some where it's like the lay and pray and stuff like that, and I get really frustrated by that sort of a thing. But it was so impressive that he could do that to the champion that I was in awe of what I was seeing. I was more impressed than bored by the wrestling and the control of Khamzat, and he was still doing enough the whole time to keep you kind of captivated in what he was doing on the offensive side and to see if he could get a finish. And I think that the difference in grappling ability, and then there being a bit of a difference in striking advantage for Dricus Du Plessis, made it a bit of a tricky situation for, I think it was Mark Goddard who had the refereeing duties on that. Because if you stand him up, you are now, at the very least, making this a 50-50 fight and taking a guy out of a dominant position that, in theory, he worked hard for, but if nothing else, he has worked hard to maintain. And taking him out of that That bugs me. And I hated when they did it in the fourth round, but you can understand it because it's just rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. And so by the time you're getting to the fourth round and he's in side control for the fourth time, it doesn't seem like the dominant position that it was anymore. Now you need to start to do things from that. So I didn't have any issues with entertainment factor or anything like that. This was just a dominant fighter beating a champion in that way. For Dricus Du Plessis, it is obviously back to the drawing board. After a run like that, where he wins the championship and then beats the second best middleweight of all time, and then defends it again against the guy he took the belt from, generally, when you have had 3 successful championship fights in a row, you're going to get an immediate rematch if you lose the championship. There ain't a soul that maybe Khamzat would like it again. But aside from that, there ain't a soul who is saying, hey, we need to run this fight back. Let's do that again. No one is saying that. This was about, again, if it's complete dominance on Khamzat's side, this is as beat up as I have seen a champion get in a really long time. This just doesn't happen to guys like this. So, again, thanks for the great title reign. Interesting fighter. A guy who I do appreciate. Finally kind of came to appreciate the, at least, talent that this guy has. I don't know if I'd host a podcast with the guy, but you appreciate the talent that he has, but he's going to need a couple of big fights to erase this from people's memories. And this was the type of ass kicking that makes you wonder, what is he going to be like after this? Not that he took otherworldly amounts of damage or anything like that, because that wasn't the case, but it was so controlling. It was 25 minutes, almost 25 straight minutes of getting taken down and held down there and just getting beaten up, and nothing you can do is working. Like that, not to be glib or anything, that changes a guy. When you think you are the best in the world and then you have nothing in response, I just think that is, like, that has to mess with you mentally. I don't care that he came back to his corner 3 times smiling. That has to mess with you in the old brain hole there. So I need to see how he responds. And I think he's going to need a couple wins now to erase this one from people's memories to get him in there for another title opportunity. Tactically, as far as that goes, the one thing I didn't like is that, and again, I wouldn't be able to do it differently. It's terrifying to have that human when he does that, the little crouch and the grin at you before the fight. Like, that's a terrifying guy to then come and attack your legs immediately on a takedown, and then he's one of the best in the world at it. Like, that's hard. But he never really tried to defend the takedowns with, like, takedown defense, you know? And again, we shouldn't be expecting a conventional defense from a guy who has exactly 0% conventional offense. You would expect him to have it a little bit differently. And he kind of abandoned all technique and instead went for chaos. Instead of, like, let's try to, like, sprawl, deal with the head, do all those things. No, it's let me just try to, like, kind of run and turn this into a wah, and then I'll try to reverse it and flip you over, and now I got to choke, and oh man, now you're kind of choking me, I should let that go. Like, it was just, he was trying to defend it by turning it into the cartoon blah, 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 thing with the arms and legs coming out of it and just making it this wild whatever. And in the end, Khamzat was just calm, composed, technically brilliant, and able to just hold him down there. So, didn't love how he handled that. Had a couple of moments on the feet when they stood it back up in the 5th round. He tagged Khamzat a couple of times, and then Chimaev was like, yeah, I'm good. I'm out of here. See ya. In terms of the scorecards, I had it 50-43 for Khamzat Chimaev. They go 50-44, which that does not seem like enough. Like, I get he wasn't close to finishing this fight, but he was in dominant positions 5 times in this. I know that we don't hand out 10-8s or anything, but to me, like, in boxing, it's clear. You get a knockdown, you get the 10-8 round, right? Like, that's how that goes. To me, it has to be, like, a threat of a finish has to be there, or extended time in a dominant position. Side control, mount, those are dominant positions, and he lived there for 25. He was charging rent. He threw a wonderful barbecue there. He lived in dominant positions in 5 rounds. I thought it was, I'm not going to complain because the right guy won, obviously, and this is far from the worst judging thing, probably even on the show, but you can't tell me that only one of those rounds was a 10-8 round. I don't believe that for a second. So, gonna be interesting to see what comes of this one. But a dominant, eye-opening, incredible performance for the new middleweight champion, Khamzat Chimaev. I said that DDP wasn't someone who I would host a podcast with, but who would you host a podcast with, PK? That one coming from Conrad in the Twitch chat. Obviously you, sir, having done that over at Game Over, the whole Game Over Calgary crew. Absolutely, including Audie in Game Over Calgary version 1. I think there'd be a lot of people that it would be fun to host podcasts with. I would love to host one with Adnan. We had him on the show here in the early days of Couch Potato. Still one of the most watched videos we have is talking with Adnan Verk about his time in WWE and stuff. But just to be able to bounce around and all those things, I think it would be a whole lot of fun. So that is certainly one of them. But I mean, look, too many to list. Who I would host a podcast with. But yes, no, shout out to the Game Over Calgary crew and everything they did and hopefully next year doing there. Let's move now to the co-main event of the evening as Lerone Murphy makes a statement. A lot of talk coming in. Hey, not enough people talking about this guy. This is a really talented fighter. This is a really good fighter. Got to give him some props. Got to give him an opportunity. He just needs a standout moment. Well, he got it on a spinning back elbow that is going to play in the Baba O'Reilly video, if they still play that at UFC things, in perpetuity. Aaron Pico is coming in. Lerone Murphy spins around and puts that right there, and curtains. Just picture perfect spinning back elbow from Lerone Murphy. The only thing keeping him from a title shot was a big moment against a big opponent, and he got both of those in a huge spotlight fight on Saturday night. This was really, really stunning that he was able to do this. And I thought one of the things that was impressive was how well he handled Aaron Pico's pressure, because Pico is coming forward and just looking to bang. And you also have to take into account, while you are defending this flurry that's coming at you, that it is coming at you from one of the better wrestlers of his time. So at any point, while he is putting this barrage of punches on you, he can drop down for a single leg and just suplex you through the mat. That's something that could happen to you. And so to be able to handle that pressure while he is coming in, he got tagged a few times. Make no mistake about it. Like the first couple minutes of this fight, he was losing it. But once he started to understand, like, okay, this guy's coming at me, I'm going to have to deal with this. He got his composure. He landed a couple of good shots, and then he used Pico's aggression against him. Caught Pico right as he was coming in, spun around, hit it perfectly. Just the absolute perfect way to use a fighter's aggression against him. Wonderfully done by Lerone Murphy, who showed that he is an excellent, excellent striker. It's tough for Aaron Pico, because again, I think he's a high-level fighter. That's a really tough loss to come back from, because Lerone Murphy isn't the biggest name, right? But he is probably getting a title shot off of this. So that at least helps a little bit. I'll be interested to see how he comes back from this one now, because everything was going great for him. Loved the pressure early, and I wrote down in my notes, I like this game plan from him. Like, I wish I had said, let's not mess around too much on the feet. Maybe, like, kid's been boxing his whole life, but he's a wrestler. Murphy, on the other hand, has been striking his whole life and isn't a wrestler. So, where do we have a clear advantage here? Well, let's take this thing to the ground. But I liked, because Murphy is such a skilled striker, no one really pressures him in that way. So, okay, let's see how he handles this pressure. Let's go after it. And it was working right up until it wasn't. And I think there was a couple of those exchanges that happened where, like, he is working it early, right? And it's digging shots to the body, and it's great combinations. The hand speed is there. The technique is there. He is obviously a very talented fighter. But once Murphy reared back and answered, sorry, just punched the mic. Once Murphy reared back and answered with a couple good counters on one of those exchanges, I think that had to be not that you get scared, but that has to be, okay, he's figured this part out. Like, we're not just going to blitz him and have it. Like, he hasn't figured it out, but he knows what's coming. He knows how to handle it. Maybe we should, coming in, double leg, boom, takedown, whatever. And again, Aaron Pico and his coaches have forgotten more about fighting since I started this sentence than I will ever know. But just that's something that maybe they stuck to plan A just a little bit too long when there were some signs that it wasn't working. But again, I think the kid's incredibly talented, and I'm not going to knock him too much for this one. But now it's an interesting fight coming up again for his second opportunity in the octagon. But he showed that the hand speed and the talent as a boxer that make you really excited when you consider the wrestling background that he has. Other fights from the card. Carlos Pratas, he was the one who started the spinning back elbow trend. It was hilarious that this is a technique that has knocked people out 10 times in the history of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Twice in the span of 15 minutes on this show, because just before it happened to Aaron Pico, it happened by Carlos Pratas to the dome of Gary Neal. And Pratas is now a player at 170 pounds. He's really exciting. I think getting that level of a knockout, again, on what is one of the bigger cards they've had in a while, I think that is going to put him in line to fight almost anyone he wants at 170 pounds, with a couple of exceptions. I like that he called out Leon Edwards after. I thought that was really smart of him to do that. Sign me up for that. I think that's going to be a really exciting type of a fight, and one that is going to maybe decide another challenger at 170 pounds. But Pratas just showed some really good creativity on the feet and a very high level of skill, and able to pull that off was just fantastic. So all around, excellent performance from him. For Neal, this is tough now, because he showed he is still good putting combinations together, but this looked like, and I'm not saying that the foundational techniques have evolved out of the sport now, but this looked like watching the evolution of the sport in one video. Neal is going out there. It is strong fundamentals. It's 1-2. We're landing good shots, and we're mixing hooks in, and we're doing this. This is a really good striking attack. And Pratas is doing spinny shit, but it's really hard leg kicks. It's really hard spinning back kicks, the head kicks, all of these things. He is landing. He has the straight down the middle punches, but he complements them with some great creativity and real power in all of those creative strikes that led to a really tough night for Neal. And now it's 3 losses in his last 4. And title contention, I think, is now farther and farther away for him. So back to the drawing board for him. Michael Venom Page cruises past Jared Cannonier. MVP, just so skilled and a very interesting fighter at middleweight. He looks big for middleweight. The fact that he makes welterweight is insane. But he looked big at middleweight, and anyone he is in there with is going to be a lot of fun. He won this fight basically with 3 punches. Cannonier has forward pressure, body locks, getting in on the fence, and controlling how the fight's going. And then in the first round, it's one counter right over the top that he's able to hook down and just nailed him right on the chin and just dropped him. And then in the second round, again, it's forward pressure, controlling up on the fence, Cannonier controlling where this fight is going. And then it's just a good body shot, good shot over the head. Good shot over the top, stumbles him back, and it got him into that flow. So basically 3 punches sealed the fight for this guy. That's how skilled he is. I love the counterpunching that he has, his quickness, power, his style. It's always going to be debated, but always going to be entertaining. And I think he showed really good takedown offense, battling on the fence as much as he did, keeping the fight standing, getting away from that, and getting into advantageous positions for himself. Excellent work all the way around. Brilliantly done. Had a height edge on a guy who's a pretty big guy in Cannonier. At least I associate him with being a bigger dude. And to be able to have that size advantage, be able to just subtly move your head out of the way, be able to counter, it all meshed together perfectly for him in this one. Cannonier, this was tough for him. He's not the most exciting fighter. It's a loss against another high-level opponent for him. I do think he is still an interesting fighter. He's an interesting test for anyone who is on the way up to see if they are ready for that next level. He is a gatekeeper at this point in his career. We'll see how much longer he wants to do it. He just didn't do enough with the advantage that he had in the first couple of rounds. He would get in on the takedown, get in on the cage, and then just kind of hold it there. And a lot of that is good balance, good takedown defense from MVP, but he wasn't able to finish it, get the takedown, or by the 5th time, wasn't able to recognize, this guy's probably not going down. Maybe I should do anything in the clinch and get any kind of damage here, or land on these breaks or something. Just take advantage of this time where I can actually reach this guy, because he was reaching a lot with his punches, leaving him vulnerable to those counterattacks. It just wasn't working on the feet. He was able to get it onto the ground, but that's because MVP slipped and fell. Now, once he got it there, he held it there, and it was really well done. But the only time he got this fight to where he wanted it to be, is because the other guy made a mistake. And that's not great. So we'll see what Cannonier can do from here, but a really good performance from MVP. And then a tough setback for a guy who I'm very interested in. Kai Asakura taps out to Tim Elliott. Let's start with Elliott first. Let's celebrate the victory. That's a huge win for Elliott. Just a KG vet showing what he could do. I don't think he is a title threat, although it's not like there's a long line of challengers right now at flyweight, right? So he's going to get a real major opportunity here. I think he's a fight away from being a fight away at this point. And I mean, good for him to be able to get that there. He was excellent on the ground. That was the story of this, right? Like, he got picked apart on the feet a little bit, but once he was able to get that takedown, it really turned the fight entirely. And it shows what the good and the bad of that unique kind of moving around style and all of that, because in the first round, he's just moving and he's shaking and whatever. And he's getting hit a lot by Asakura because nothing really threatening is coming back the other way. He's just bobbing and weaving and doing his thing, but he's not threatening at all. But once he gets that takedown, which we'll talk about in a second, and then in the second round, all of a sudden, the moving and shaking because he has the momentum. Now it's unpredictable. Now it's terrifying. And now I don't know what I'm doing with that. So that pressure gets put on and it really messes with the guy. And the fact that he was able to turn the tables of this fight by catching a head kick and getting the takedown and getting into side control is so, it's so him. Because it's just however the fight goes. Like, this was Bruce Lee, be water and just flow like water. Where it's, okay, eating the head kick. Well, I got this here already. Let's just take you down and, hey, look where I am now. Like, that's not a conventional way of doing anything or anything like that. It was just very well done. And to be able to turn it while getting kicked in the neck is so impressive to me. I was just blown away by what Tim Elliott was able to do on Saturday there against Kai Asakura. This is on the other side of it, this is a tough loss for Asakura. It's one thing to lose to the champ in your debut fight. That's going to happen. If you are a title contender, though, while I like Tim Elliott, appreciate his career, this is a fight you needed. That loss can't happen. Stand-up wise, he looked great. Obviously, there's a lot of upside there with the hands that he has. But he got worked on the ground. And then going into the second round, it was obvious he knew, and that gave him a bit of a second thought, I guess, because that forward pressure now was gone. Because he was so worried about going back to the ground that it stifled the stand-up offense as well. And when you are that good with your hands and wanting to compete at a championship level, that can't happen. You should at least be able to survive on the ground enough that you're not so worried about the takedown that your entire strategy changes. So that was eye-opening. I really didn't like that with Asakura. So the hands, phenomenal. But the ground game is really going to need to come along. Because that was worrisome to me. That was really, really concerning from Asakura on Saturday. What else did you notice from Saturday night? Let me know in the chat, or if you're watching after, let me know in the comments, or if you disagreed with anything that I said. Conrad, do you think he got caught thinking too much in the ring? 100%. Yeah. Like, when you are... there are times, I'll make the joke, you could watch him think in there. Like, he's trying to set up the best way that he can to not get taken down. And while he's doing that, he's not actually A, fighting, or B, worrying about an actual takedown that could be coming at him. Like, he is so kind of frozen in there, very much paralysis by analysis of just trying to figure out the exact right angle, and he just couldn't get it, and that put him on the mat. And he was so worried about basically, he was so worried about losing, he forgot about winning. And he was so worried about getting put in that spot again that the only thing that was in his head was just don't do that again. Even though he had such an edge when he was coming forward and landing those shots on the feet. And if he was just able to effectively do that, it neutralizes a lot from Tim Elliott's game. So yes, 100%, he got caught thinking too much there. Couldn't agree with you more, Conrad, on that one. Once again, if you are watching this on YouTube or wherever, make sure you like the video, hit subscribe or follow, depending on where you are at, notification bell so you don't miss anything from Couch Potato Diary.